Welcome, listeners, on Wise Women Forward. Today we have an awesome guest. April Wall is a psychic medium and author dedicated to reframing midlife not as a crisis, but as a profound spiritual and physical transformation. Yay! By deconstructing the patriarchal narratives that teach us to fear aging, April helps individuals reclaim their intuitive power during this pivotal life stage. She is the author of 3 books on tarot, tea leaf reading, and angel numbers, providing practical tools for those looking to deepen their connection to the divine while navigating the shifts of midlife. Welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. Is your bio, did we get anything? Do we miss anything? I mean, it's a pretty cool bio. Tell us a little bit more about, how you came about being that person.
Well, I've always been a psychic medium. It's just, I think everybody naturally is intuitive, and some people just fine tune it a little bit more. I think we can all learn to play the piano. Some just go and become Mozart, and, others do it as a hobby. So, and then through that work and my social media accounts showing like practical tarot card readings and tea leaf readings, I was reached out to by an editor and was able to produce those 3 books and get them published in the last couple of years. So it's just, it's really interesting what the internet can do and how it brings people together, kind of like us today. So, but as I've entered midlife, I'm 45, I'm in perimenopause. The women in my family tend to go through it a little younger. And so even though I deal with things on a spiritual level, it's kind of shifting for me. So I'm not doing a traditional mediumship reading right now where, I may channel your loved ones and bring forth messages. I'm really talking to women at this stage in their life and explaining how this transformation is as much spiritual as it is physical.
That's amazing. So I've been watching your posts, and when you speak from spirit, it really touches me. And when you bring forward those ideas that this is a critical transformation that brings us into the wisdom and leadership phase of our life. That's exactly the science that we found and put
Yes.
in the film. So tell me, where did that idea or that feeling come from for you?
Well, it's kind of like explaining, channeling spirit altogether. And I think anybody who works creatively, you feel like you tap into something. There's the muses, there's that inspiration. And I think there's just a level of, knowledge and energy that if you set the intention, you're able to tap into. And so when I sit and meditate, or really sometimes it's more practical, just as I live my life, I can see kind of universal truths that are unfolding. And yeah, I start to put it out on social media and it really resonates with a lot of other people. And like I said, I can watch a piece of the news or something and I get these insights. I can sometimes hear it as a distinct voice in my head. And I just collectively, what I'm also taking in on social media or in the news, just in the world in general, you're seeing it. You're seeing the rise of women. You're seeing women fight against this narrative that for so long we've been fed, that it's just where you hit this point in your life, you're no longer sexually viable. You're not able to reproduce, and that, oh, well, you've served your purpose. And like I said, I'm in the trenches now myself. And I think the best is yet to come, from my life. It's just going to get better. I've had 2 children. They're in their 20s and I love them. But I don't get all of my self-worth from having been a mother. I want them to live their own lives. So I think also that regardless of what role and what path you take, as a woman, whether you have children or you don't, this time it's like an appointed spiritual transformation that every woman gets to go through. And I'm trying to share that with people because I'm talking to women who are currently in it with me. I know women who are already postmenopausal have this wisdom, but I'm also trying to talk to those who have yet to experience it, so they're not fearful of it.
What we found about this project, Dominique just initially, because you saw the movie, so you saw how she just initially asked me for some help.
Yeah.
And we had no expectation that we were going to reinvent the idea of human evolution, but we just kept getting driven towards it. And so, do you feel as if like that? You were hitting the wall. You were entering perimenopause, and you're hitting the wall, and then the patriarchy is going to push against you to find this place, and ultimately the spirituality and physical transformation that women go through makes them perfect to execute what nature intends them to do, which is lead.
Yeah, and I find it, I mean, I'm in the trenches fighting against the patriarchy in my comment sections alone every day. I had a video go to nearly 1 million views now. I posted it over 2 months ago, and it was simply comparing misogyny and misandry. And the comments from the men are truly unhinged. and and I don't think on a level they even understand. And that's what I try to say, that patriarchy doesn't also harm women. I mean, it also harms men. It's not just something for us. So when I talk about midlife, I've recognized like 5 stages or initiations that we kind of go through. And the first one, and that one you're saying that you kind of bump up against, is disillusionment, where you kind of wake up in your own life and you don't recognize it. And so, and I was grateful, am grateful for my children. I've been married for almost 26 years. We were high school sweethearts. But I'm like, this is not doing it for me. There's got to be more than this. And the answer cannot simply be, well, that was it. That just is unacceptable. And we don't expect that from men. And I'm inspired by my children who are Gen Z, who are in their 20s. Both of my daughters are also queer, so I'm learning from them what it's like for their womanhood in that space, and what they face, when they don't fit into this typical stereotypical, version of femininity. So, but I am impressed and inspired by the younger generation because I think they have a firm grasp on it. And that's why I think we're in really good hands moving into the future.
So you said 5 stages, and I love it because you started with disillusionment, which felt a lot like the dread I felt.
Mm.
What are the next 4 stages?
Well, so you face the disillusionment and then you move into the descent, which is kind of like that dark night of the soul. This is where you feel like everything is falling apart. And it's most likely physically represented when you've got the night sweats, or you're up at 3 a.m. and the brain fog. There you go, the brain fog, the word finding. And that's kind of that critical point. And then you reach reclamation, where there are parts of yourself that you want to keep, you want to kind of reclaim those, and you want to reframe them. And so that's where you're starting to go back up on the upswing. And then you get into reorientation, which is now I feel like myself again, but I know that I'm different. You're starting, like I said, you've got those pieces, you've now kind of integrated those, and ultimately you end in embodiment. Because what I have found and what I keep trying to say, and I love the comment section of most of my videos when the men aren't bombarding them, but there are all these generations of women that can talk to each other. And I say all the time, speak to the postmenopausal women in the comments, because once you've reached embodiment, you are your most authentic, most powerful self. And that's why, there are these stereotypes, but there's a little bit of truth in it, that as women, we've reached that point finally where we're not worried about what everybody else thinks about us. And so there is a freedom that comes from that. I was just joking with my husband before I was going to sit down with you guys. And I'm like, I don't know, in this patriarchy we live in, menopause is actually the first time we get to experience the freedom men have always had. So, and maybe that's why they don't like us. Because now, and I do think that's when we're their biggest competition and why we should be in leadership in these roles. And I've kind of gotten disheartened a little bit because I also speak specifically to women. I fall into the eldest of millennial. So I straddle the millennial Gen X generation. But because so much has happened under the boomer patriarchy, more the men of the boomer generation, that a lot of women my age feel like, well, we've missed our time and that we need to just step aside and let our kids come through. And like I said, I think they have a great head on their shoulders. I think they've got a lot of potential, but this is when we should step up the most. And so I'm like, I can't agree with that. This is when you can shine. You have all of this information. You now have, like I said, this most authentic version of yourself available. This is when you need to step up.
Well, from my perspective, and what we hope to do with this whole film project is just in time that women are feeling that way, right? I mean, we really the whole earth and spirit and culture and everything is groaning of the weight of this mistake we made called patriarchy. And patriarchy really it doesn't serve anybody except for the people who are willing to be bully rule breakers and take advantage of everybody.
Or who fit exactly in those boxes.
Well, but you have to be a bully to
patriarchy.
do it. You have
Yeah.
to be a bully to fit into that box, right?
Yeah.
So, you saw our film, Wise Women. Do you feel like that is going to provide you with any further information from which that you can talk to women who are entering that phase? Or is it just stuff that you already knew?
Well, a lot of it was very interesting. I'm like, it was interesting how much of it has come through in my videos. And for me, it's validation because I do a little bit of a high wire act, when I'm saying that I'm channeling spirit. I don't know how much it'll resonate. I don't know, you still have your own mind that's, skeptical and, am I making some of this up or whatever? And to see your documentary I'm like, this is exactly what I've been saying. And it's nice to see the science back it up. And I think with the work that I do, I tell a lot of people, because there's a lot of skepticism with that. And normally men that want to deride it. But I'm like, I just don't think science has caught up yet. I just think it's a thing that we're very capable of doing, and it seems mysterious or woo-woo. And we just haven't gotten the science behind it yet.
Yeah.
So, but I definitely took inspiration from it because, like I said, I thought about how it's just this divine appointment we all have to have menopause. And I think it gives credence to backing that thought up that this is something to look forward to. This is something that is very unique, like with the limited amount of species on Earth that even go through it. What is the point of that? It's not just, to sit around and knit in the corner. We have real value to add.
Yeah, yeah. My process through making the film and all the things I learned, one of the things that I started noticing is, I've always been a pretty outspoken woman to begin with, but I started realizing how many filters I still had and how many veils and what we started calling it gaslightings, and directives that I had internalized. Have you found that to be true, that as you're hearing more things through spirit for yourself, you're like, oh, wow, I've been taking that on and that on? What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the work, because my work has really in the last couple of years really gotten a lot stronger and building my platform online. And I am finding, even when I do engage with some of these men in the comments, there's actually an empowerment behind that because I'm not trying to keep it nice. I'm not interested in their affection or attention. So I give it to them pretty plain and straight. And I do think for a good majority, they're very surprised, especially because when you get into political spaces and things like that, if they think you're more left leaning, that also, and again with the spirituality, that you're going to be more woo woo and I guess let it go, and I can get just as combative as they want to, and I have been empowered by that, and just being able to call a thing, and not worried about, well, yeah, what will the PTA moms think of me? How do my in-laws see me? You just get to a point where you run out of F's to give. And
Wow.
there's a freedom in that.
So people are finding our Wise Women Forward Substack and these podcasts, and they're looking to move forward. Is there some advice that you could give them? Because it seems like you've already taken some steps towards that, as to what it feels like to step into those feelings, those shoes, something that could inspire the ones who are like, well, can I get there? What's the advice for a woman listening right now?
Um, I would say for sure to own your own voice, to take even small steps of, if you're in a meeting at work, or if it's something where you're on the PTA, wherever, you participate in your community, make sure you're speaking up. Just, throw your hand up, for the first time, send an email to someone. Just start small. You don't have to take great leaps, but the more you do it, it's more this kind of self-affirming cycle that you get into. And then that confidence grows, and seek out other women. Like I said, I really love the community that I'm building, because they'll get in the comments and they assure each other. And if someone's struggling or saying, I want to feel rah rah about this, but I'm not there yet, and they are incredible about lifting each other up. So also think it's great to have a great network, of women who maybe are on the other side of it, to tell you. And that's what I'm trying to do in my small way. And like I said, I'm not through it yet, and I have days. I'm thankful for HRT, that has helped me with a lot, but still, moods can be all over the place. My kids are very patient. My husband's great. And I try to be honest about that. I think also just owning where you're at, and not dropping the shame, dropping, what all these expectations and what you have to be to everybody. Because that's the thing. I think it's interesting that in this time of life, I think spirit and your body they have a come to Jesus meeting, if you will. And women, and it's because of the patriarchy, we're just charged to go through life and put ourselves on the back burner. And we're just going to keep going and keep going. The kids need to do this, her husband needs to do this, and we're working for everybody else. And this time in your life is when your body and your spirit come together and go, hey, we got to slow her down a minute. So yeah, maybe we've got her up at 3 a.m. and she's going down a rabbit hole on the internet. But it's when you have your higher self that stays on the spirit plane, and it's trying to inform you, hey, you had a lot of things you wanted to do before you incarnated into this human form, and we want you to do that. And it's time for a little course correction. So I think it makes sense to me. There's a logic to it, that the body is kind of thrown into disarray so that you finally make yourself a priority.
For that word community,
Oof, I love that.
Yeah, right. But that word community, and how much the patriarchy separates us. It's just, community and us talking. That's the nature.
Yeah, and speaking your voice brings us together. So I love that. And by the way, I proudly call myself a crone, a witch, a hag. And I love that.
Yeah. And reclaiming just reclaiming these words. And I mean, as you can see behind me, a lot of it, yes, I'm in spiritual spaces, but just the energy of what a witch is. And I have a tarot deck, and witch is for woman in total control of herself. Just reclaiming those narratives. It doesn't mean something evil or dark. It's just, which is intimidating to men who fall under the patriarchy, of a woman who is fully empowered, who can stand on her own 2 feet. And we don't need you. We can love you. We can want you to be in our lives. We want to be partners with you. but we're not depending on you. And that is really scaring some of these guys.
I was quite proud of that section in the film when it came together with Jane Caputi talking about language. And it's like, it's just about that resonance. It's like, even like we talk about my daughter's starting a recycle is men a start. And then we talk with Luann Brizendine about it being men a stop, right? And it's just like,
Yeah, I love that.
pause, right? And so just the power of language, it's just so amazing to me.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing, because I think you're spreading a message that not only is necessary, but that is going to empower all women of all ages.
Yeah, I want to I'm going to put you on the spot right now. Would you think about writing a paper for our Substack about these 5 stages that we could
Yes,
publish? Because I
please.
want more people to know that this is coming from you. And
Oh,
so,
yeah, for sure. I would love that.
okay, that would be
Yeah,
awesome.
because I love the 5 stages, because I always say that you should celebrate.
Yeah.
But giving yourself those 5 steps makes it so much
Yeah.
easier. You know, you're like, when you're in the middle of it, and I'm like, I
Mhm.
meant to celebrate this. Blah! But if you know it's like steps, it's like, no, okay, I'm dealing with this. There's going to be a next phase. Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the readings that I do is called a midlife mapping session. And it is to kind of help acclimate whatever client comes to me about where, what I'm getting from spirit, where you are. But I also have a self-assessment so that you can kind of take it and see if we match up. And it's also helpful to know that there are these 5 stages, but you'll kind of go back and forth. No journey is ever linear, and you may kind of have a foot in each and you might hopscotch over this one before you go back. But it's helpful. I mean, even in just regular medical illnesses, you go to the doctor and it's the not knowing sometimes. It's once you get a diagnosis, so many people are just, at least I know what I'm dealing with. And I think there is still so much mystery because of how woefully we've not been studied as a gender, about this, that it's just helpful to have a guidebook and to say, okay, yeah, like, all right, well, I'm in this and these things are normal, and this is to be expected. I can at least reassure myself a little bit.
Yay.
Now, if I can ask a question, you talk about your husband, you've been partners for a long time. We share that
Yeah.
in common, both of us. And, I believe that a man's most sort of steady place is to be in service to the community. I get the sense that your husband is similar. What is your
Oh,
husband
yes.
like?
I mean, he's super supportive, and he's always been my biggest cheerleader. I mean, he's believed in me when I didn't, and really touts my accomplishments when I want to, just diminish. And that's kind of the thing. What's funny is, when I'm getting a lot of heat from these guys, the misogynists in my comments, and they of course just make wild assumptions. And I must have never, I'm single now. I'm an old cat lady. Or no man would want me. And I'm like, no, see, what's happened is I've been with a really good man and he screwed up the curve for you guys. So I know that the bar can be so much higher. And yeah, so that's and I really did when I watched the documentary, because my husband watched it with me. And I said, they remind me of us, because it was so lovely just to see that she was going through this experience, but you're like, yes, how can I help? And that's all you want. I mean, I feel like we're very equal partners in our relationship and in our life. We know we bring different things to the table, but he's just, and that's some of that, he's just messed it up for other guys. Because I'm like, I know these type of men exist, so come on, fellas, we can do a little better.
I love that.
Yeah.
I always say that we should be moving forward to a balanced archy, right? Because matriarchy, to me, is already thinking on the community, but instead of going backwards to something that
we
we've done
can't.
before, a balanced archy, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was like, the thing that I want other men, if they're listening to this, to realize is that you're not alone in wanting to be in service. There have been so many men who have approached me and thanked me for doing this project because they want to be heard, and they're not being heard right now. So to the ladies out there, we're ready to take up the mantle and help you the way that you need to be helped and help community. And these loud few jackasses that are dominating everything, we're just going to get rid of them, and then we're going to move on to this.
And for the women, speak up.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, that's the way you drown out those voices. And I've said in many of my videos that I do believe the patriarchy is crumbling. And these are the last dying gasp of, this monster that is,
Yes.
going down. So they're not going to go down without a fight, but ultimately they do go down. So
Right
we're
on.
just waiting them out.
That is the perfect thing to leave on from your mouth to Spirit's
Exactly
ears.
right.
Yeah.
And so one last thing to consider and to maybe bring up, because we do call this Wise Women Forward, and it's about imagining where we're heading, because one of the things the patriarchy is good at doing is having us bogged down in the last shit show that just happened. So when you imagine Wise Women Forward, what does that look like to you?
I think you definitely are going to see more women step into leadership. And I do see more of a community kind of based approach. I think America specifically is coming. There's going to be a lot of radical change, but very positive change, because it's just simply it's not working. And I do think that Gen Z and the younger kids coming up, they've just got such a strong foundation. They know how to set boundaries. They don't have a problem with that. They have a sense of self at such an early age. And if we can continue to shepherd and guide them and, show them there's nothing to be afraid of, and to use that voice so much, earlier on in their lives, I think we're in good hands. And I do just see there's just going to be things they're not going to compromise on. And so I think you're going to see a political landscape that's a lot different. I think you'll see it in the voting. And that's just what I keep getting from Spirit, is that there's a massive shift we're undergoing. It's very chaotic and noisy. And it seems scary right now. There are a lot of people who are confused and worried, but ultimately, unfortunately, our current circumstance, people liken it to, Nazi Germany and things like this. But what I like to tell people is we know how that story ended, though.
Mm-hmm.
I think we get focused on the really horrific parts, and it truly, my own family was affected, but we know how this story ends. And so, and Spirit has impressed upon me in many of my videos, I talk about that women that have incarnated, if you're on earth right now, you have a warrior spirit. You said, I can see what's going to be happening at that moment in time, and I want to go. We volunteered. We want to be here because we will be here beyond what's going on now. And so we have to stick around because we've got work to do.
Wow.
Right on.
Yep.
Thank you, April. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm going to tell you, my
pleasure.
face is red. I got out in the sun this weekend. I'm in Georgia. Beautiful weekend, but not a cloud. So I'm like, it is what it is.
You look
You
beautiful.
look beautiful to
Yeah.
us. So
Well, thank you. I match my red background here.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So for all those listeners, thank you for joining us. And you can find more about April in our description down below. Also, if you want to check out the movie, there's links there. And then just join us on the next one. Thanks for coming.